Hash 10 Ways Battlestar Galactica changed Star Trek's sci-fi formula. When Battlestar Galactica BSG was rebooted in 2004, few anticipated the seismic impact it would have on science fiction television, especially on the long-standing cultural titan that is Star Trek. While Star Trek pioneered philosophical sci-fi and optimistic futures, Battlestar Galactica embraced a gritty, morally ambiguous reality that forced audiences to confront the darker sides of humanity. Over time, Star Trek began to reflect BSG's influence, adopting many of its storytelling innovations. Here are 10 ways Battlestar Galactica changed Star Trek's sci-fi formula. 1. Darker, more realistic tone. Classic Star Trek shows often championed hopeful futures. Even when conflicts arose, humanity had supposedly outgrown its basest instincts. BSG flipped that notion. It presented a raw, desperate survival tale in which human frailty, political tension, and ethical compromise were everyday norms. Star Trek, Discovery, and Picard followed suit decades later, shedding much of Trek's utopian veneer for something more grounded and morally murky. 2. Serialized storytelling over episodic structure. Star Trek traditionally thrived on episodic storytelling, with each episode mostly self-contained. BSG broke that mold with long, serialized arcs that demanded viewers follow the story week to week. Star Trek Deep Space Nine hinted at this evolution, but it was Discovery and Picard, both post-BSG, that fully embraced serialized arcs as the primary structure, focusing on season-long narratives with intricate threads. 3. Moral ambiguity in leadership. Captain Picard and Janeway often embodied near-perfect moral compasses. In contrast, BSG's Admiral Adama and President Roslin were complex, sometimes flawed leaders who made controversial choices. This shift influenced Trek's portrayal of leaders in the modern era. In Picard, Jean-Luc wrestles with guilt, failure, and doubt, qualities BSG normalized in its leaders, making them feel more human and relatable. 4. Militarized Starfleet influence. BSG leaned heavily into military realism. The Galactica was a warship first, not an exploratory vessel. Later Trek shows, especially Discovery and Strange New Worlds, showed Starfleet in more militaristic tones, emphasizing combat tactics, security hierarchies, and command chain dilemmas more often than diplomacy or exploration. This echoes the way BSG blurred the lines between survival and militarization. 5. Gritty visual aesthetic. Gone were the bright, sleek interiors of the Enterprise. BSG opted for shaky cams, low lighting, industrial set designs, and a more tactile environment. Star Trek, Picard, and Discovery mimicked that aesthetic, abandoning the sterile bridge setups of TNG and Voyager for darker corridors, worn-down tech, and more intimate cinematography. 6. Psychological and emotional depth. BSG wasn't afraid to confront trauma, grief, addiction, and mental health. Characters like Starbuck, Balter, and Ty were deeply flawed and often on the edge. Modern Trek now explores the psychological toll of life in space. 7 of 9's post-board PTSD, Picard's aging and regret, and Burnham's loneliness are more introspective themes that may not have been tackled in earlier Trek without BSG's trailblazing. 7. Political and religious themes. BSG incorporated heavy themes of theology, prophecy, and political ideology. From the 12 colonies' conflicting governments to the mysticism of the silent belief systems, BSG delved deep into societal structures. Star Trek, Picard, and DS9, the latter somewhat contemporaneous, integrated similar motifs, exploring Romulan xenophobia, Federation corruption, and existential questions of synthetic life and spirituality. 8. Unpredictable character deaths and consequences. BSG wasn't afraid to kill off major characters or permanently alter the trajectory of a storyline. The sense of no one is safe added dramatic tension. Modern Star Trek has embraced this unpredictability, with shocking deaths in Discovery and Picard, and characters facing real, lasting consequences, a far cry from the reset button endings of classic episodes. 9. Civilians matter too. In Star Trek, most stories focus on Starfleet officers. BSG balanced its narrative between military personnel and civilians, highlighting how ordinary people navigate survival and politics. This perspective inspired Star Trek to give more screen time to non-Starfleet characters like Raffi Musiker, Cristobal Rios, or the refugee characters in Discovery, adding narrative depth and diversity to Trek's world building. Hey,